listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Whodunnit After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Whodunnit After Show.
Bing is for doing, and we're here doing another AFTERBUZZ After Show for Whodunnit finale. As you guys can see, we are joined by special guest Anthony Zuiker. Woo-woo!
And by Victory Cigar.
And his Victory Smokeless, or E-Cigar. We didn't even know they had him until today. Also joined by my lovely co-hosts.
Hey guys, it's Virginia.
And Brian.
All right, I feel like there's so much to talk about. We're so excited.
I'm only smoking this because I could finally relax and say y'all know what the answers are, who the killer is, who the winner is, and I can just relax. It's too stressful for me in this life.
It was really stressful. It was really awesome, and we're so excited. We get tons of inside scoop questions we've wanted to know the answer all season.
All season.
And we're bringing it to you. We have some of your questions as well. We appreciate that you guys have been following all season on YouTube, iTunes. We have some questions that we've picked for Anthony to answer as well. So let's get right to it.
Fire away, as they say.
So, well, I think let's just go over the finale real quick. Let's go over that. You know, there was lots of speculation that Melina was still alive, which I thought was a good twist that was thrown. But we even went back to when you had called in and when you said there was 3 people left. We were like, wait, there's 3 people left, but she's not dead. And on ABC's site, it didn't X her out like the other people after their death. So I was a little bit, and the killer on Twitter was still following for. So.
Sometimes I lie about things.
Apparently.
Well, I mean, when I saw the next week on after episode 8, I didn't see Melina in there, but like for one running away shot, I'm like, oh no, I totally gave it away. But yeah, it was, I knew there'd be a winner, loser, and a killer. We had the same format for the first 8 episodes, obviously, that very structured format. But for 9, it was like I came into my boss, I'm like, look, here's a whole new philosophy. We're gonna do like puzzle pieces and a question mark and different things because we wanted to make sure that we crowned the true champion of Whodunnit, that we really felt like they went through all the things they've learned throughout the course of the episode.
Right.
And, for all those who don't know, I didn't know who the killer was until episode 8. Wow. Mid-episode 8. I have no idea. Only because, well, when we were dragging Gino across into the thing with the chandelier, I was like, so, my partner Chris Abrego, so Chris, I don't know who the killer is the killer able to drag a 220-pound man under an illuminated crest? And he was like, I said, dude, I have to know because I can't write the 8 or the finale.
Right.
And he was like, he says, yes, it's a female. I go, okay, well, which female? I mean, and he finally gave up Chris, so. And that's when I knew it was Chris. And then at that point, I had to be on the set for another episode and a half and not say the word Chris is the killer. I had to say the killer.
Yeah.
And I slipped a couple of times with the PA that I work with, and he was like, did you say with the killer? I'm like, yes. Quiet. There's like a $5 million fine. Don't say anything.
It's funny because once Chris was revealed as well and they were playing back all of the scenes, the one thing that stood out was when she had Dana push Sasha. So I was like, that was smart. She made somebody else do the dirty work in case she couldn't like push them both together, or it was a hint that she might have been not as strong as one of the dudes.
I definitely wanted to make sure. Well, it was hard because we had to do all these genderless, motiveless murders, right?
Right.
To push the cart and this and that. And when I first thought of the idea of maybe having Melina disappear, I wanted people to think, oh, she disappeared to come back and do killing. Luckily, Lindsay had a soundbite which said, I don't know if she's a killer or coming back to kill me. So everybody kind of drank that Kool-Aid, which was great.
Yeah, I definitely drank that Kool-Aid. Yeah. Last week I was like, I don't know, I think she's still the killer, and she's out like
you were
setting up.
For
yeah, because it just seemed like it made sense because the whole season we see her as a little bit helpless or like, the damsel in distress. And then if she would have been the killer, it would have been like this whole time she was playing us,
Right.
But still, I mean, Chris did a really good job of playing us as well.
She did. I wasn't part of that selection process. It was funny because my son, Evan, was on watching some of these audition tapes in the beginning, and he was like, he's 10 years old, and he was like, oh, she's really, really great, Chris Kratz. And I was like, well, okay, interesting. And then I find out later that it was her. So I don't know how the selection process really happened. I think they offered up to her to be the killer. I know she got like $50,000 to be the killer.
Oh, wow.
Which is a nice payday for 30 days of working. But she did such a great job. I had no idea. Every time I was like, oh, it's got to be Dante, dead. Got to be Adriana, because she was like overly suspicious. So I pulled Chris Abrego aside and my partner Matt Weinberg, and I'm like, if you guys cast Adriana as the killer, she's way too overacty. You guys are ruining the show. And she's mugging the camera, and this is so ridiculous. Blah, 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 blah. And like, boom, dead. Yeah. And then right down the line, Don dead. And then Ulysses dead. I'm like, I'm done guessing. I'm done.
That's awesome.
You know, it's cool.
It was. There was a lot of things that do, if you look back, do point to Chris. But I feel like in the same sense, last week, what threw me last week was when Giles was like, you've never been scared. So I was like, oh, no, it's not her. Like, that would be
I thought
too...
the opposite. I thought the network was forcing me to put that back in. I didn't want to put that in. I didn't want to put that in. I didn't want to put in that she handles guns. Right. We kept in the one we kept in the premiere about, oh, my dad's a cop. High five to Don. Right. But I didn't want to put any of that, because that seems so obviously, that's such a bad giveaway. It's like, never been scared, no. And I'm like, well, there's one, two ways. Either A, oh, they're too tricky and it's not her, or, oh, it's got to be her.
Yeah. Right. I think you've done a good enough job by this late in the season that people, you know, are expecting, it's basically, you know, a double bluff at this point. People aren't expecting anything to be, you know, to be straightforward. It's like showing your bluff in poker. And so by that point, you know, I thought, oh, well, they're showing, you know, or Giles is talking to, you know, is talking to Chris saying, you've never been scared. Well, that's, you know, that clearly can't be straightforward.
Right, because everything else was so left, right, this, that was like, okay, but really, and I feel like they did that with a lot of things. Like, if you really just took it for face value for what they were saying, some of the things were actually really true. Even with that one episode where it was just such a straightforward kill, we were looking for other stuff to, you know, what was it, where they drained the blood? Yeah. When we were like, that couldn't have been that easy. You know, the double murder. And then it's because you'd gotten us on this look for something else, you know, so you definitely did a good job of throwing those in there when you're not expecting it.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing the footprints and the ink prints on the carpets, I was like, is this going to look absolutely terrible? But it actually played pretty well on film. At least you saw it. Yeah. But 7 and 8, we threw them out. We didn't, episodes weren't great. We tossed them. So those were literally like off the cuff, 7 and 8, and they both come out to be pretty good episodes too. Yeah. Especially the fourth challenge where they had the fourth area with that whole ice shaving picking thing, which was great. But Melina, I never saw Melina come back and start just mowing people down in that one scene.
Oh my God, that was brilliant.
I didn't see it when I was somewhere else and writing whatever. So when she came down, I was like, did you guys feed her that information? No, she just put all this together. And her and Ronnie were like thick as thieves during the shoot. So when those two, she came down and was just playing everybody I know about this. And did a drink? Was it tea? Did you write a note? I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. She just went off. It was great.
So did you guys rewrite that fourth mystery scene then because y'all saw the way that their team broke down and that it was really only Melina so that, you know, they couldn't do that? Or was that really how it was originally planned?
I wrote the lines for Giles to say, you know, 1 of 4 areas and pick your thing for it from the mystery area. I had to anticipate and write that they would not, you know, agree to individual areas because it was, I think Melina and Lindsay had a big stalemate, right? Yeah. Yeah. And so I just gave them that kind of dialogue, and then literally they had to fight it out. And you know, the only thing I ever scripted ever was just all of Giles and Chris at the end with the whole, because she had to rhyme like Kaiser Soze. That was it.
Okay, time out then. Let's go to Giles for a minute. There's 2 episodes where his behavior is very distinctly changed. Like he's drunk, he's in like a half onesie, he's
dancing with the maids.
Like, did that play or was that just?
Well, the thing is, it's like it's I call it. Who is the actress in League of Their Own? Gina Davis.
Gina Davis.
Yeah.
So I saw Gina Davis acting on that movie. And literally, you're like, wow, she doesn't seem like she's that great. You know, when you watch her, then you watch her on film, and she's ridiculously good. Mm-hmm. So you don't know how good or bad Gildart is until you get him in the cutting room, because it seems like on the day he's doing great. And somebody, you know, him and I worked very, very closely about trying to really find his rhythm, because if you play it too straight and too, you don't, as an actor, you don't feel like you're really, you know, wowing the audience. If you play it really big, it feels good on the day, but in the cutting room, you're like, whoa, way too big. Right. And Gildart's such a professional, and him and I were like, very, very close. He trusts me 1,000% on everything that I'd write, and we would work on all of our scenes together before he would do them. But we took some chances to go bigger and go smaller, and ironically, when he was just just normal and just subdued and laid back, he was great. But when he got big, things got big, and we had to just cut around it. We had some issues, him and I, but he's the kind of actor that will say, hey, show me what I'm doing wrong, and I'll make the adjustments, and he was great.
So you just kind of threw that in as a curveball to his straightness, the fact that he
For example,
seemed like he was
in the
drunk for a
finale,
couple
I
times.
told him in the finale, you know, it's at last you crowned whodunit, you've done
Right.
it, arrest him, and I told him to go big.
Right.
It was just too big for the
Right.
moment because Cam, you know, we didn't know Cam would win. You know, I thought Lindsay was going to win. I was certain she had a good chance of winning. So when Cam was there, Cam was very subdued, and he was very like, I just won $250,000. Great.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Okay, cool. What
I
about
think he was in shock.
Yeah.
You know?
That one bite where he got emotional, and you know he actually lost his words. I put some sad music on purpose just to make that read, because that was the only time he showed any vulnerability. Because he was just very like, just the facts, ma'am. Homeland Security,
Right.
gonna come get you. But you know, but it was a lot of people knocked us for doing the whole like stereotypical butler thing with Giles, but I thought he was actually really, really fun.
Oh no, we all loved Giles. If there is a season 2, will Giles be a part of it?
I hope he is. Yeah, I mean we all love him. You know, it's just a matter of you know, what will season 2 be? You know, we've had some
Right.
talks about that too.
Well, you know, this episode I particularly liked because you immediately see the shift of, you know, like every man for themselves. Like they've been this whole team this whole time. And then like you see Cam kind of like he starts noticing stuff and then he takes off. And then like the girls follow him because that's kind of what their team's been doing. And then immediately when he gets in there, he's like, okay, guys, like we're not going to play this game anymore. Like we're on our own. And it was just a really awesome kind of shift because I've been waiting for like a lone man kind of thing, and it didn't happen until the finale.
Ronnie screwed us. I mean, he screwed us so bad when he won the challenge in the first thing with the slingshot. And he would run to the thing, and then everybody would follow him, and 11 of 13 have information, and I'm like, what are you doing? So literally after the third episode, we're like, okay, time out. These challenges have to have one winner. Because everybody follows you, you're screwed.
Right.
So you'll see in the later episodes when Gino wins and shuts the door for the safe, when Ronnie goes upstairs and shuts the door for the video stuff on Adriana's explosion. It was all like on-the-fly challenge moves to make sure that a gaggle of people didn't win the challenge because there's nothing to barter.
Right.
You know.
It also looked. I mean, it looked to us like maybe around episode 3, and maybe this was the same type of direction from you guys. That, you know, some of the intermediate steps. There had been a lot of following in even in the middle of the challenge. You know, like you know, Ronnie maybe would see the door handle or something, and then, you know, someone else would be going this way, and they go whoop, and go right to it. And then I think the most distinct point that I saw was where they were in the woods with this was, I guess, the episode in which Ulysses was killed. It looked to me like everyone had to complete this little word maze on their own before they could even move off, even if, you know, someone in their team.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, what no one knows until you're great listeners is the fact that we did a presentation before we shot the pilot. So we had a bunch of kind of like, you know, actors come in from central casting. We shot for 3 days. And the person who won the challenge, you're like, congratulations, Cam. That individual in the presentation had to go ahead and recount what happened in front of the whole table. That was how it originally was. And I'm telling you, we were seriously mid shooting of the premiere. And we had the idea, my partner Matt said, you know, we should have Giles write it from the killer's point of view and keep a really distinct voice.
Right.
And this is like big time game changing decision of the entire show. Because the fear was, could you imagine, Ulysses, God love him, but he's so horrible in State Your Case.
Yeah.
Like in real life, he's like, and then the killer walked in, and then he had a knife. Start again. Killer had a knife, and then he went like, Start again. Like that was a State Your Case. And we're dying, going, oh my God, how do you cut this guy together? Thankfully, we did it in snippets because it was.
Right.
So could you imagine, you know, Ulysses winning a challenge and getting up there and going, okay, how it happened isn't give the whole run of the case. It would be a disaster in the cutting room. So we decided to give all that to Giles with the killer point of view, and it really gave me a chance to do things like beast wishes and all those funny salutations, have such that great kind of pun-like voice. It really opened the show up big time and just protected our true crime.
Well, and it also kind of just leaves the mystery of who the killer, because it doesn't have a voice. You know,
Right.
even to us, it's like, who is the killer still? You know, as
Yeah.
opposed to someone else telling the story.
Yeah, and it did definitely confuse a few people.
Right.
Like people were going to Giles was the killer, which we knew wasn't the case.
Right, I think that was almost. It's almost just like a natural. I think on behalf of a lot of people, it's just a natural impulse. They keep
Right.
hearing Giles describing the killings, and you know,
Right.
somewhere in there's neurons in there that are just saying, well, you know, that he must be the killer.
Well, no matter what he would do, and, if he would run back in from a bombing, or if he'd come in and go, "Have you ever been, scared, interesting?" If he would act weird or sinister, it's like it's got to be him. It's got to be him. You couldn't help but say it's Giles.
Yeah.
That's why I put that beat in the finale, to where Cam went up and we pray to God someone will get it wrong and go, "You're the killer," and so the whole America goes, "I told you it was the."
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh my God, our YouTube viewers were right. Like, how did we miss that?
I'm not gonna lie though, I would have kind of been really disappointed.
I would have
if
been
Giles was-
Oh, no.
peeved.
That wouldn't
I
make
would've
any
been
sense.
pissed.
Yeah, that's,
Well,
that's
that
a
was
bad
the
trick.
premise of the show. That's why I
I
was
know,
shocked
but
that
if they
Cam
would've
fell
thrown
for
it-
that, or because I mean, the premise of the show. I mean, I would think that for the contestants, it was pretty clearly spelled out that one of them is the killer.
And he really thought that, because when
Yeah.
he went back, after he had gotten it wrong, he went back again. He's like, against what I'm feeling, I'm going to say, you are not the killer. And he got the other puzzle piece.
But I think adrenaline was probably part
he
of
seemed
it.
pretty
Like, you know,
tired
like,
at that point, too.
go, let's, maybe it is. Like, you got to think, I mean, he's winning $250,000. That's what he's thinking. Like, is it or is it not? You
Right.
know?
Well, it was really, there's a lot of TV magic that kind of happened in the show. Like, for example, we didn't have enough cameras to pull off a real live go for the whole puzzle piece competition.
Right.
So what we did was per legal, because there's a lot of legalities in this thing of, any
Right.
idea is so ridiculous. I mean, the first thing that's interesting, kind of behind the curtain for the AFTERBUZZ, is state your case isn't how we judge you.
Right.
We
No.
judge you on a written test.
Yeah.
Off screen. Those that do great or the best is spared for the day, and those that do horrible in the bottom two.
Is
And
the
then-
test the same every week? Like the same questions?
No. Well, it's all episode specific, right? So it's
Okay.
like, what's the murder weapon? Da, da, da. And they're way like something are 3 points or 1 point or 2 points, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so what happens is that we have a clause in the rules that the killer can be scared,
Right.
but cannot get kicked off. And it used to be before we started shooting that the killer could get kicked off. And I'm like, well, how can we do that? They put
Right.
that clause in at the buzzer, So we're praying to God, can't Chris just get on the bottom two to kind of throw this thing off? And she was never, ever scared. It was just freaking me out because the people just put that together and go, oh, she's never been scared. That has to be her.
Right.
So that's where we were. Anyway, there is a test that you have to take. And so we did Cam in the finale. We timed him, go. And he had to run every station, do the thing, poems, the whole two thing. And then we did Lindsay, go. And then we did Chris. I think Chris, half did this and half did that because she was, whatever. But Lindsay actually, she was winning. And what happened, I mean, she was actually doing pretty good. Cam got caught up 7 times he missed the lion thing. 7 straight times.
Wow.
And this is like Mr. Logic guy. Like,
Right.
Don gave him the wrong piece. And we're dying. So Lindsay actually lost the competition for $250,000 by 44 seconds.
No!
44 seconds.
Oh, wow.
And I was hoping, because when I wrote the ending about where do you want to go home, I was hoping to be emotional, something very Wizard of
Right.
Oz about that. Like, go through you walk in this house, it's all horrified, then all of a sudden, like, you win the money and you go back to the place that's most safe, which is home. And Cam wins. Like the personality straight guy wins. And I'm like, oh no, where do you want to go? Home. And,
I was hoping to hear Disneyland.
Me too.
I tried to put some Disneyland music that
It's on. Yeah, it was on ABC.
But there
I
was
know,
so
it's-
much drama, by the way. If you watch it closely and rewind it back on your DVRs tonight, when Cam walks out and shakes hands, you see Sasha just burns a look through him.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Sassy
It was
Sasha.
always mean.
Yeah, 'cause
she
Sasha-
was pissed.
She was telling me that Cam was like, giving the finger on the walk, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So we did that shot 3 times. We had tights on the cost $15,000 to fly the cast back to play the zombies. That was a nice touch for the audience.
Yeah,
And was that because, and we had talked on this last week, was that because just again to be like, they're not dead? Or was that the intention of the
it was
finale always?
I always felt like it's just fun to kind of do the thriller version of this,
Yeah,
and bring them
we-
back.
Well, that's what we
we
were
wanted to
wanting.
dance too.
And did you guys recognize that was my voice and the killer was
Yeah.
me? That was
Yeah.
my voice, right? So it's funny. So it's like, I even raised him to the deadly haze.
Yeah.
And when they came down the cast, it was like, oh my God. It was so fun. It was nice that they all come back. It was really cool.
We recognize your cameo too in the end, Mr.
Oh my
Copper.
God. I'm mortified. First of all, it's like I've been on a 29-day shoot. All you do is eat grape licorice and type, and shoot tobacco. You're like, skull tobacco, licorice. You're unhealthy. And I'm like, okay. I thought I see it from my kids can see me, on TV or something.
Was that your first major cameo, or I mean?
No, I've been on CSI probably 5 times.
Okay.
I was a heckler, a sportsbook guy, a roller coaster attendant.
That's awesome.
Stuff like that.
So going back to the finale real quick, I have another question because the killer's voice, aka you in the finale, says that they have to dispose of Giles. So there is like a double twist of Giles, that he's dead, then that he's alive, then that he's the killer, then he's not.
I did it on purpose because I wanted to have him say, it was to remind the audience again, $250,000. It's like, in case you don't know that from the 9 episodes. And then, I hope I have a chance to congratulate you before I, and it cuts out.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
To dispose of that Giles. I did it on purpose because I wanted people to think that he was like now dead. So when the first person ran up there on clue 9, which is right to the audience, see the killer and see, oh my God, oh sorry, I know it looks peculiar that I'm now out of all the contraptions. You don't think I'm the killer, do you? Yeah. And have the audience go, maybe it's him. And thankfully, by the grace of God, Cam guessed wrong and said, you are the killer. And the Americans gonna be like, exactly, I knew it the whole time. So it was just a setup to a great payoff.
Yeah, it definitely, you got me, because I was like, oh my God, my mind was like seriously racing. Yeah, it was blown when that happened, because I was like, oh my God, Giles, the whole time, they've tricked us.
Yeah. I remember watching the finale with my family from Buffalo, my wife, my new wife, Michelle. Just got married, yay, March.
Woohoo!
And they were stressed out watching it. Did it seem stressful to you when you were watching it?
I was totally stressed out. And then for the, when it happened, and I was like, oh my God, Chris is the killer when they're showing us this. And then I'm like, oh my God, that means Cam is the winner. Like, I didn't know what to think. I was going back and forth, like, winner, killer, what is going on? Like, it was. It
all happened so abruptly towards the end, too. And after watching, week after week after week with no resolution, and really very little convergence on a resolution either. You did a very good job of keeping that, that sense of, even though there were fewer and fewer options for the killer, very little, I think, actual, anything you could hang your hat on to say, well, that's definitely the killer. Up until the last, 10 minutes or so, where it's actually revealed, it was almost, I had a feeling of almost surreality in the sense of, is this actually the reveal of the killer?
Right.
So did I, because she said it was kind of creepy the way that she was speaking, and like the killer was speaking a riddle in itself. Like, I felt, I completely agree with you. You were kind of like, wait, but what's going to happen? Is Cam going to like blow out of the building now?
Well, I never talked to Chris at all the entire show until the very end. So, I mean, we did rap, and then we would buy them like Coronas and pizzas and say, did you have fun today? And the cast was always like, to me, because I would never talk to them. I would bring these weird episodes down. They'd be freaked out. Ever since Dante ran on fire, they hated me. We literally brought them out of the hotel at 3 in the morning. We put them, half stayed in the hotel, half stayed in the Manor, just so you know. And when we ran him across, or actually it was a female stunt woman that shaved her head for the shoot, which was totally crazy. Lit her on fire twice. And when she ran across on fire and the cast didn't know about it, they were so freaked out, crying, delirious. That's when I had to tell Dana she was off the show later on. She was like, I can't take it anymore. I just want to get out of here, go back home to my 8 kids. I mean, she was so stressed out. Everybody was so stressed out.
So
and I was like the Moriarty going, whoa, and I would just try to just crush and kill everybody every episode. It was great.
I'm glad you had fun with it. Watching other people cry and freak out.
Freaked out.
That's awesome.
Oh, so now that we know Chris is the killer, so we see kind of Cam, like, he was the one that started this, this is my team, like, he was the very first person that, like, started alliances, and you're in, you're out.
Very beginning, yeah, right.
He was playing the game, and so Chris was in his alliance pretty early on. Since she was the killer, was she just playing just like everybody else? Did she have to, because she knows obviously it's not her, or she knows she is the killer. Does she just have a choice of how she can play the game any way she wants?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty hands-off, reality production. I mean, there's some reality shows that you can watch. You just know that everything is planted and scripted, and that's why I got so angry in the first couple of reviews coming out talking about it's all scripted and they're all actors, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is why I was so forthright in the first 5 minutes of the finale, which is like, okay, time for Anthony's voice, because I went to my boss and said, look, I'm so tired of everybody saying, that it's hokey and silly and acting and it's scripted, because if that's how it's perceived, that I went from the biggest television show at CSI, then I'm writing some kind of just cheesy thing for ABC, I was mortified. So I want to make sure, like, let me set the record straight about this thing. What I should have done is I should have done the finale 5 minutes in the premiere.
Yeah, that would have made sense.
But I was so strict about, like, look, we don't want to be conventional. We don't want to hand walk people. Let's just let it rip. Yeah. Let them figure it out. Because again, like, your listeners for AFTERBUZZ.TV, they know how to put things together really quickly in that sort of like quick Twitter mind. And I wanted to make sure that we weren't insulting the audience by going, here's how it's played. My name is Giles. We took 13 non-actors into a manor where they will stay here. If you do good, you're this. You do bad, you're this. And they're not actors. And they're going to play out their own deaths. And it's like, shh, next. Where's a wife swap? So
I actually liked that it was that way, to be very honest with you. And I think that, and I could be wrong, but never in your guys' wildest dreams did you think that one of the biggest thing people would be saying is, are they actually killing people? You know what I mean? Like, there was some things that were just so, because I remember us doing like the first recap, the second recap, and we were like, so what's, like, how do we figure it out? And it was part of the whole thing to figure out what was going on.
I mean, you're right. I think all great things happen on accident. And the thing is, we just made the decision not to do that.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of people talking. If we would have spelled it out and said, hello, 2 + 2 is 4, go. Yeah. They might have been like, oh, well, whatever. But people had a lot of questions, and I thought that was a bad thing. I mean, I was beating myself up in the first episode. I was like, oh my God, is this something a failure? I can't believe it. But we got snake bit by the guy on the tightrope. So we lost a bunch of viewers that day.
Right. We remember
it was
talking
like
about that. Yeah.
9:20 of the premiere of Whodunnit, like the guy's walking, and then
Grand Canyon.
people thought it was scripted, and we lost like 30% of our viewers. Like walked out the door. We lost like 1.5 million the next week, and slowly but surely we just kept kind of creeping and steady. Got a nice bump last week, but people hung in there, and the young demo, the young people between 10 to 16 are addicts.
Huh. Yeah. I was going to ask about the demographics. I mean, I've seen some of the the ratings of the usual 18 to 34, I think it is, for that. But do you have like geographic demographics, that sort of thing, to figure out who's watching?
It's a lot of women love the show. They love CSI too. This skews far more younger than CSI. I mean, young people love the show. And we had the Teen Choice Awards last Sunday, so we got that big bump. I was like, wow. Football, it's murder. I got murdered by football. But females is the key to television all the way around. Women drive TV left and right. And I didn't really understand why young people like the show until my kids were all over it and people's kids were all over it. So now in our Malibu house we have this thing called Whodunnit, which is literally I'll be Giles.
Oh my God!
And I do these murders of like people that come over. We have some we eat and have a couple cocktails, and like, okay, you're gonna be dead. And we open the garage and there's a dead person over the surfboard, and they all go and they play the show. They play the game exactly like they do on the show, called Whodunnit. And the last one I did was called Sharknado. And I caught this 11-foot hammerhead shark from South Beach that's stuffed. I yanked it off the wall and threw it in the pool. The guy floating. They had to solve the crime. Like the last one whereabouts was like the Weather Channel was on, and it was so much fun. Young people love the show, so we do our Whodunnit thing every week.
That's awesome. It makes sense too, because it's not gory in a sense, and it's it's fun for them to follow, and there are certain clues that young people could figure out, and maybe even more so because they're not overthinking like maybe we have been at some points.
Well, I made the mistake of like doing a little green dot for the 3 pieces of evidence in all the areas for the kids, just so they know what to look for, right? And so I did R for reverse in the Range Rover because the car was in reverse, so they could find that, And my 10-year-old was like, Dad, what are you marking it green for? Obviously, if it's in reverse, it's a clue. Oh, okay.
Well,
sorry.
Kids grow up reading the Hardy Boys, or I guess maybe not anymore. But I mean, I remember.
Nancy Drew.
Yes, but Encyclopedia Brown. I'm dating myself somewhat, but I think that's
They're
really the
curious.
age where that's an age where you really latch on to. I think. Mysteries and just solving mysteries, and that's at base what this was. There's a lot of very good makeup and
John Goodwin, who does all of our makeup, has won a bunch of Emmys for CSI. Came in and did this as a favor, right? And did such a good job. The makeup effects on this show is unbelievably beautiful. That's why people think we're murdering. Besides and my boss at ABC, John Sadeh, said to us, and I couldn't believe it. I fell off my chair. He said, the problem, I have no problem with the show. the two things, the criticism I have is, you know, you did too good of a job, and it just looks too good. And I'm like, what?
That's why people think people were dying.
Yeah, seriously. But the cast had a great time, and I'll tell you, you know, I can go down the list of cast members of how they reacted when they got killed because it's interesting. Sherry was, Sherry was the 14th person.
So how was she the first to go?
I was going to say that, yeah.
Again, I wasn't around for the casting. I had people in town that day, so I guess they thought that she was interesting, but didn't quite have the personality pop to run the show.
Oh, so she was the 14th person
She was,
selected.
yeah, she was
so
14th.
basically, she was like an alternate.
Yeah, and we liked her. She had a nice personality.
So did she get like paid to do that first episode?
Yeah, she probably got paid for the week or something.
For the other stuff with the test and everything, she didn't have a chance to do it.
No, she knew. She was like, "You're not on the show." Here's the thing. Here's your choice. You can not be on the show, or you can say yes to be on the show, and you die in the first 5 minutes. And she's like, "Yeah, cool, whatever."
Okay.
So we told her to drop the champagne glass, you know, and it was so funny. ABC got so caught up on like, so why is the killer choosing her to be dead? And I'm like, well, he just wants to play the game. Not good enough. And I'm like, okay. So so it was like, it had to come down to like, she dropped the champagne glass, and that's the reason why, you know, you're an insult to my house. You're dead.
Right.
But she literally, you know, when she was shivering, we sped the film up a little bit, so she was really. And I'm in the cutting room going, more. And she was freezing and shaking so bad because she was like, we put water on her in her robe and this and that. So Sherry was like happy to be in the show, and then Dante was like, "Oh man, this is supposed to launch my career. Seriously,
we love all of you."
Yeah, he was not happy. And then I think the next go was Adriana.
Yeah.
You know, she was. No one liked her because she was super annoying. Great lady, but super annoying. And then Don was like, I just couldn't do the riddles. And then he looked at me, and I'm like, dude, you're a cop. You're killing. You're done when you go back to Valencia. You're done.
I wonder what's happened to him now. If he's like a
can
running
you imagine
joke.
if he goes to the old cop bar? I mean, they're gonna have like drink specials named after him. And
fun, great guy, not the best game player. You know, Ulysses sort of took the news. You know, he was just like, oh, well, that's a bummer. That was Ulysses. Dana was like, I want to go back home. I can't take this. This is Satan. And Sasha was mad because they tricked her on this whole, you know, snake business with the whole, you know.
With the clip, the song.
I was so mad.
Getaway Jack, whatever that thing was.
Yeah.
And then Ronnie was super bummed out.
Really?
He played the game so well.
He did.
He was tripped up by a word. It looked like he just was not good with word puzzles.
That jumble.
He was, and the week he came out, like he was the first to get down to that little word puzzle, and then it just looked. Do you know how long he actually spent there? Because we weren't sure because of editing.
Because he was there, and then Melina came.
I think I jumped somebody. So Gino was super bummed out.
Oh, Gino.
Yeah, Gino, he was great. He was my odds-on favorite, but Ronnie, at the end of the day. The funny thing about that show, and we try to do the best we can, but Melina had pool so early, and she for some reason she just was not putting together pool equipment.
That's what I said.
She had pool forever.
She had pool, and she didn't have pool table nor pool equipment.
No,
and everyone was like,
it was like I wrote it's like at an angle, yours to tangle. Hello. So she would do pool literally the first 2 seconds of it, and we're sitting like, oh, this challenge will be 2 seconds. We'll go to lunch. And literally the thing, you know, like she wasn't getting it and wasn't getting it and wasn't getting it. And I'm like, oh my God, you're gonna lose this whole show because of this equipment thing. And Cam comes in with this EQ business and got it. And that was it. That was the whole tide turn right there.
Yeah.
Curtains.
It was very like interesting, and I know some of our viewers like almost made fun of us because we said interesting so many times, but there were so many things that really were interesting, like the fact that it really. You know, well, first off with the teams, how you saw everyone like split, then together, then this one tried to go here, and Lindsay was playing both, and I don't know if that was, it was all organic.
I mean, we again, very hands off. I didn't talk to cast at all during the run at all, besides, you know, here's your Corona, here's your pizza, did you have fun? Cool. Ooh, here he comes. Ooh, what's for tomorrow? Can't tell you. Adios. Chris Abrego talked to the cast a lot. I was the Grim Reaper more times than not, and said, hey, you gotta die, sorry, which is always a fun speech. But that's just the kind of way it went. It was, you know, human nature is based on all of our real worlds and survivors and that kind of thing. You just begin to form alliances, begin to backstab, kind of click up, and double cross and play both sides and eavesdrop on doors, and all that's organic, you know.
Which is crazy, because if your cast wasn't good, the show could have had a completely different outcome. Because also you would go like, you know, you'd almost get to the end, and there was a lot of times where, like the Ronnie thing, it switched last minute, and it just organically happened like that, like always.
Yeah, Ronnie just played himself out. I mean, he played himself out just too much. Too many tricks, too many back and forths, too many conditions. Let's lie about this, let's lie about that. And Cam, it's going to have Cam's back. He was the ones that, we're not going to lie about this. We're not going to, we're not going to double cross people. We're not going to throw, you just stay here. Lindsay, he played it like a really smart person would play the game. He was the best game player, and he's the winner. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, right. he was, I mean, almost unbelievably straightforward until you actually watched it all play out. Just being so upfront and just, I mean, we never saw, at least, him withhold anything from his team, in his reveals.
And here's the biggest piece of, like, AFTERBUZZ.TV nugget.
AFTERBUZZTV.com nugget.
Yeah, .com. Don't say that.
I got you.
I said that. Yeah, I said .com on Twitter. Oh, it's a hangover thing. Cam was our alternate, because our final 13, this guy who we cast, we loved, he got busted for, he tested positive for drugs, like weed. And he had to get bounced from the show, so we slipped Cam in there. And Cam's got this really weird following, because his name means like God or something, where he comes from. It's the craziest thing. So now I'm thinking, when he won, I'm like, those people back there, they're like, this guy's really God, dude.
That's funny.
Seriously,
That's really,
it's
really
so crazy. He was an alternate on the show.
There was a lot of, for lack of a better word, crazy followers. Like, we've gotten so many tweets. We've actually tweeted with the whole cast. I believe that we've received back from everybody. And we tried to get some of them in, but I think it was against the rules or whatever it was. But it was even funny last week. Melina had tweeted, "Can't wait to hear what AfterBuzz has to say about this one." And I was like, had to put my phone away because I was so nervous that someone was going to spoil something for us.
Well, I'm really proud of the Twitter community, and really proud of the online community to not bash. There tends to be a really bashing, hating nature in shows like this, and everybody was super positive. They all had the horses they backed, and they really got behind certain people. And when I was watching a lot of the chat boards, Chris was under the radar a lot. Not a lot of Chris chatter. A lot of Adriana chatter up front, a lot of Melina chatter, a lot of Lindsay chatter.
She did tweet me to clarify that she was not just an ex-beauty queen.
Because we were curious, because everyone was listed with their occupation, and then hers was ex-beauty queen, right? An ex-occupation is
no. I mean, look, she's a former Miss Nevada.
Yes,
so she's not
it's significant.
There's no such thing as an ex-Marine, right? So she's a former. So she's a former Miss Nevada. Like we said, she doesn't drink alcohol, so we did that the whole scene in the limousine. I was in the cutting room going, "Oh, what do you mean? Where's the champagne for Chris?" "Oh, she doesn't drink alcohol." So it might be just for personal preference. It might be because of Miss Nevada things. I know she's not supposed to be cussing and this and kind of thing. So I think she said
she did curse in like episode 4.
Yeah, and I think she had to apologize for that.
That's what, because in this one she said "son of a biscuit."
Yeah, which we thought was dubbed in, was it?
No, it was. No, she said
because it sounded
they thought it was
weird.
dubbed in. I thought it was because she had sworn on camera in 3rd or 4th.
But
and got caught.
That was the reason why in the beginning you didn't think she was a killer, because you were like, "There's no way ABC would be okay with their killer swearing on TV." So it's
well, I mean, that was before we had Anthony on, and he clarified a lot of things.
Right.
The alcohol thing was weird because I have to respect as a person. You don't drink alcohol, so when she had I didn't know this when we opened up the Baccarat crystal things for their presents in the limousine. She was like, "Cheers," and I'm like, "Where's the alcohol?" She doesn't drink. So now I'm like, is this a Miss Nevada thing?
Right.
Or is this a personal preference thing? Because in the editing room, you're drinking. Meaning, I'm going to add pink champagne to her glass. Because if she cheers without alcohol, just one more like ding for Chris.
Right.
So it was a weird judgment call, and I just had to make the call.
Right.
Yeah.
But so for the record, Chris doesn't drink.
Right.
So
good clarification.
Yes.
One to just kind of move slightly off exactly what we were just talking about, but
you're good at that.
Yeah, no, well, I like the tangents occasionally, but I just have a gnawing question that has come up, I think, for all of us at various points, is just how much interaction with the dead bodies of the contestants in the morgue is there, in the sense that they know it's, I mean, whether it's whether it's Gino there or Ronnie there laying on the table, what goes on where they're pulling him back and
Like when they
moving
pull
him
that
around?
musket ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so from a perspective that the contestants are still competing and there's a person acting dead, from
Well,
that
that
perspective?
and just like the kind of
Like, were there any
curious
rules about it? Like, you're allowed to touch the body. You
I mean,
can
not
do
just the
this.
rules too, but just like in general.
Yeah, sure.
Was anyone ever like, "Hey, don't touch that"? Or
No. We have a very strict sit down with the cast that's in the morgue.
Okay.
So we choose the morgue. We say, okay, here's the thing.
Okay.
There's a female on the table. You're not allowed to touch her. You can't lift her skirt. You can't go inside her chest area.
Right.
You can't go underneath. Can't.
Right.
You can turn her over, but you can't go near the buttocks area. Like we're very super. Like it's all taped, so we know the rules are.
Right.
Last thing we need is some sexual harassment case, so we're very clear about that. Where it gets funny is is when Ronnie chooses the morgue, knowing that, or when Cam chooses the morgue, knowing there's a beef with Sasha, who's dead. That's where we're sitting back going, oh no, because I have to sit there and I have to shave a white washcloth with a razor blade, and I have to personally put the stuff in her nose and tell her not to snort it down her. So when they're trying to find that, there's some drama between several contestants that when they're in that intimate proximity, they have to hold their character, and we know they don't like each other. So we're just hoping nothing bad happens. So we're pretty strict on the rules. But everybody, my kids always say, don't they laugh? Don't they giggle because they're being? But everybody played the role just perfectly, straight, no problems. It's great.
And then the snakes, were any of those? Did they have a propensity to bite any of them?
Sure. Oh, no question.
And
Yeah.
So they
bitten?
really had to grab the snake and throw it in there.
For the finale?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And there was, but again, those snakes aren't poisonous. Those two.
No, yes.
But the ones in the
The
shack,
snake room, yeah.
those are definitely they weren't poisonous, but they bite.
Okay, anyone
So-
get bitten?
No, but the Wrangler guy brings in these he brings in these like rounded coolers of snakes that are labeled. We had 80 snakes. We lost 3. 2 went inside the wall. 1 escaped in the shack. But he talks to him like the snake whisperer. He's like, "Don't bite me, don't bite me, don't relax, my dear, relax, my dear." And I have footage, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" But we put so many snakes in there. But it was it was a little creepy, a little dangerous. But the cast, some people they just kind of just did their thing. I mean, Cam hates snakes, so we were loving that.
What were you guys looking for in contestants?
Well, I mean, look, the show, like you said, the show lives and dies on the cast. So someone that's going to be vibrant on television, will pop on TV, has a good personality. A lot of times we love the casting audition tapes. We flew them in to Los Angeles and they were just dead. Such a bummer.
Literally.
But some people, I was on Gino. I was on Gino in the very beginning. We had 1,000 people, and then Gino stuck out right away, and he made the cast.
Yeah.
But and then when you get there on the day, we call it CSI shock. We have actors come on. They're like really great in the room, and the audition's awesome. They have that one great line. They're in the mirror 1,000 times saying, da da da. And on the day, they're dead. But for this cast in particular, they did a really good job. They bought into the narrative. They didn't break the eye line, start looking at the camera the entire time. They just bought into the fact they're going to play out this reality fiction part where there's playing the game. And I got a lot of flack on Twitter about when Cam said, "I'm a little reluctant to jump into this pool water because Dante just died in there." And America's like, "Oh, come on, man, just a show." But it was just Cam buying into the narrative. That's all it really was. It was just him honoring the audience, not insulting the audience. So that was pretty cool.
So, going back to, you said there was, people kind of talking bad about the show, but we watch The Soup. Have you caught any of, oh my gosh, it's pretty funny. Joel gives it a nice little.
Really? I heard about it. Well, I don't.
Well, we were excited to see it every week because we follow the show, so we kind of know it's like little snippets of.
When they tease it, we'd know what the payoff was going to be.
Well,
but it was
I think,
Giles. It was frequently Gildart in some of his bigger moments.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I think the critics kind of jumped on it and passed it over pretty quickly and never gave it a chance. And I was a little taken aback. I was like, wow, myself and Carl Mendelsohn, Ann Donahue, Jerry Bruckheimer, and Danny Cannon, and Pam Vise, we did such a really great job building that CSI franchise into what it is today.
Right.
And it is back-to-back-to-back most watched show in the world, according to MIP. So I felt like, when we did this, they were really quick to jump on it and go, blah, blah, blah. Rather than say, hey, maybe there's a method to our madness here. That's why the reprieve, the end thing in the finale, the first 5 minutes was like, aha! They're not dying. We're ahead of you the whole time. We got your back, Twitter. We totally just went behind the curtain and said, hey, we had a big voice in the finale and said, we had a game plan the entire time.
I really like that. I like, and again, too, I mean, just to go over some of the other stuff in the finale, I love that they had the clues. So what you're saying is that they were filmed separately to do that whole pinball puzzle.
We had to. We just legally couldn't get around the traffic jams.
Right.
You know, somebody messes up a thing, puts the puzzle piece in, gets caught. Both people get caught up in the shooting challenge or snake challenge. We just legally we couldn't do it. So
Makes sense.
And by the way, legally we almost had to throw the whole episode out because again, their legal is so strict at ABC about this money. You just can't. You know, you have to make sure it's all by the rules. So to avoid traffic jams and to keep it legit, even remember the ice challenge with ice pick?
Yeah.
If that ice melts, you know, literally a couple centimeters lower than somebody else's, got to call the whole challenge off and bring in new ice. Like it's really super strict.
Wow.
If that yellow compartment that opened up that says mystery is lower or higher than it should be, and somebody has unfair advantage of the ice pick, the whole thing gets called off. So, only thing we could do is just go start, finish, and time it to have a clear-cut winner for legal to say here's the money to avoid lawsuits. And then we shot a lot of crosses where people would cross and run. Or in front of each other to give the illusion they're actually racing.
Right.
That's just part of the movie magic.
Earlier you had said you threw out episodes 7 and 8 or threw out large portions. I wasn't sure exactly what you were referring to.
Well, it means I'd write the episode and give it to ABC. And we, you know, episode 7 was episode 7, which is Crash My Party, where there's a plan B. That wasn't the first. The first iteration was like they were eating sliders and it was actually human meat. And ABC's like, cannibalism is too dark. Toss. And once you toss one thing in the episode, the whole episode's gone.
Okay.
So I did a whole plan B thing where, you know, Gino didn't wear the things downstairs, so I had to go to plan B and night goggles and the cooey nut, you know, noose, and so that was great. And then episode 8, I had something else and it just wasn't working. And once I had ricin, that got fixed, and then we did the whole thing. But we actually told the contestants, make sure in episode 8 when you're by yourself in the different areas that you do talk it out for the audience. Because our fear was they're like, no one's here, so I'll just look at the body, not say anything. So Melina's like, oh, did you do this? Did you do that? Oh, 105 temperature. Like we at least told them to verbalize it because we were so frightened that if you have no one to talk to in the room, you're dying on television.
Right.
But it worked out pretty good.
Well, I have a question. Was there a hint in every episode that led you to Chris?
No, not every episode.
Okay.
You know, she would just do small things like, you know, I've shot guns, I've this, that, like that was a cop, just little things that would say if you're really thinking on the know. Some people were on Chris from the very beginning, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, you know, she slid on the radar for a while, but there are, you know, ABC made me move a lot of those sort of like clues to the end before the 11 murder run where she says, I killed those people 11 straight times. We did a couple of like clue things you're talking about, and then we did the whole montage of all the things at the very end.
Right. And because also in this episode, you can see clearly that Lindsay has a different clue at the end, which right away, you know, I thought she was dead. But in that clue, it said the arrow pointed, and then she got shot by an arrow. I don't believe, like, all the other clues weren't that straightforward. Were some of them and we just missed it?
No, the game plan was I needed to give the first 2 people that were going to be in the final, knowing that it's going to be Chris, obviously, and Cam. I had to give them the same poem because we want to do the whole, like, standoff where they kind of walked in at the same time. What's going on here?
Which turned out well.
Yeah, then I had to give Lindsay something separate, which is like at least give the illusion to the audience and her that she actually has a chance to win.
Yeah, because that's
right.
yeah.
Arrow victory points to you, like, oh great, how am I doing? You know.
Right.
That was a whole funny thing because we had to like glue this arrow onto her. It kept going down here, then it was up here, and then I got so much crap from everybody like, I don't understand, you know, what's triggered the mechanical knight? So I had to add these robot sounds. So it's shot. You know, we had to make sure that the rotation of the bookcase, you know, triggered the because Chris was upstairs and she couldn't have done that. All these logic problems on the day. But it worked out.
Well, I do have one question that I wanted to get to from our YouTube watchers, from Andrew Martin. He said, I'd really like to ask the producers if they regret making the riddles so powerful because it had nothing to do with betrayals or backstabs. The sole reason Cam's team won is that they got the riddles time and time over.
So strong. Well, no, I have no regrets. I mean, I wrote every one of those riddles. I mean, they were just fun. Just things you can kind of just nudge them into making them sure they're doable. There's a lot of misleads in the riddles if you overthink it. You know, there's one riddle that talked about being cool and laid back, which meant the morgue.
Right.
And I remember telling the challenge producer, I'm like, and these shows, by the way, they have challenge producers. They just do the challenges, which are awesome. So there's an ad council poster when I was a kid with a gun up a guy's nose. It was for cocaine. And then it said, like, a lot of young kids think they're cool and laid back. They are, and it shows them in coffins. So I used that in the riddle. It was kind of funny. But the funny part to me was running those kind of things and having people outside going, oh, cool and laid back. Is there lawn chairs? Are they in the pool? Oh, out of our element. Is it water? You know?
It was really funny, too, where people would take the clues. Like, even last week, people were saying that the killer was Chris because it was the cream in the rice milk with the soy or something like that that spelt out the letters of her name. Like, people were putting clues together in a way that we didn't think of. Like, people put a lot of energy into figuring it out. It's awesome.
The funny part about it is, you know, the cast was getting really tired by the end, 7, 8, 9, and you know, Lindsay missed a ton of that library.
That's what I was just about to
She missed the Book of Toxins. She missed the camera, the pinhole, in the Monkey See Monkey Do pin cam, and I was like, so I'd write these things like, some of you missed this and that, and it just got. And I was like, you missed A, B, and C, and D, and E, and then at some point I just got so angry they were missing stuff, and I was like, I might be inclined to do another double murder.
Right.
You know, when Giles got mad, because I was so mad behind the scenes going, idiots, you're missing all this stuff. Because if you miss all this evidence, by the time you piece your case together, it doesn't make any sense in the cutting room. And I'm like, how could you guys miss, I have 1,000 books, there's one book sticking out. Like, come on.
Yeah. Which, with that particular thing, I think it would have been interesting for us to see that. Like, even the episode before, because we saw those monkeys, because, you know, then you could be like, wait, but there's a camera. What's that supposed to lead to? You know, like, that would have been interesting. And to see how far
we tried to overlap as much stuff as we could, but again, we shot 7 and 8, 7 in one day and 8 in one day. That was one day shoots, boom, 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 because there's less people. Right. And they were just tired. They were missing stuff left and right. For example, in the episode where Gino wrote the note, one of the clues was a bobby pin that was laying right there. Just nobody found it. So I'm like, how did he get in the room? You know.
Right. Well, see, and when it was with Lindsay, that made me think she was the killer then, because then I started thinking, oh, well, she's going over these clues, not really pointing them out because she doesn't really care because she's the killer.
Right.
You know, and that's what I thought. I was like, oh, well, she can kind of slack off a little and get away with it.
Well,
I just thought it was shoddy policing on her part.
No, but in the beginning, because she was, you know, playing both teams so well in the beginning, and there was such a drama about it, you know. So that I think I was there with you.
She was going back and forth, so she just kind of got wrangled and sequestered by Cam, saying, okay, you're either going to stay here, and they hate you now, so now you have to stay here, and then she just kept riding the coattails all the way through. You know?
Were they allowed to hang out with each other when they weren't shooting?
No. I mean, the biggest, you know, the thing is, this cast, what no one knows that you guys know now, was you had to come to set with blindfolds on, with these things called cans, like these are ones you can't hear out of, in a van, driven up, stop, idling in a van for 45 minutes, raise your hand to pee, raise his hand to go to the other one, number 2. It was that bad. And literally, they would stay in rooms, couldn't communicate. In fact, when the Boston bombings happened, we had to tell the cast and say, hey, we just had a national tragedy. If you got to call home, we'll let you call right now, but we have to watch and see what you say. But they were under big-time sequestering situations, and it was like permission to pee, permission to eat, you know. And we literally had Cam and Ulysses talk for a second, like behind a tree during the Woods episodes, and we're like, hey, they're talking. So you had some of those instances. Right. But for the most part, they were always separated. So it was a very tough existence to do the shoot. Really hard mentally and psychologically to do it. On top of like the riddles and the surprise and people on fire, and you know, it's hard to mentally stay there. It's tough.
Wow, so awesome. So what are your thoughts about a season 2?
Whew. Well, you know, I think this is, in my career, CSI has been really, really great to us. I feel like this is one of our masterpieces. I think we did such a nice job in this particular season. The criticisms on the show for where I sit is, you know, did you get enough time to really get to know who the cast people were, like Survivor, because you're always playing the game so much. Right. So some of the criticisms coming back is we don't get to know anybody enough to really get into it until later on in the season. So we've had some talks about, you know, is there a celebrity whodunit? You know, is that a possibility for the summer? A, it'd probably be more funny. It's like
Yeah.
Charles Barkley stars in. You know, B, you already kind of know who they are relationship-wise. There's not a lot of relearning.
Right.
You know, and C, they're not really dying on the show.
Right.
So those are, you know, 3 reasons to do that. But, you know, we feel like we're probably one more notch away from, you know, getting into the 4 or 5 millions, you know, for the summer. But I gotta say, 3.3 million for a summer show, a rookie show, is actually pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good for a summer run. You know, it's on hiatus. I mean, when all the great crime shows are on hiatus, this one comes in and kind of fills that sort of void. And it's been a lot of fun. I had a blast.
Yeah, it was awesome for us as well. I mean, there was so, like, every single night we'd be like, but what? But what? Even Virginia last week was like, I just want to know, you know?
Right.
Like, it was crazy.
Well, Twitter right now is going crazy. I read these tweets every hour. They're like, I just can't wait. I'm dying. I'm going to die before I watch it, you know, and all this stuff. But I think the end, it does all the right things for a TV show. The anticipation to answer 2 big questions: who is the killer? Who will be the winner? There's a reason to invest, you know, and back a horse all the way to the very end. So.
But one of the things that I've found is I think people backed different horses. I mean, clearly, if the horse you're backing dies, you go to a different horse.
Right.
But I feel like there hasn't been a lot of people that can say, and maybe there is, but I feel like the majority of people can say that they've jumped around a few times, rather than being like, it was always Chris.
I was in San Diego with my wife's brother and family watching the premiere. They made like a nice little banner for me, and we all wore fake mustaches and you know, magnifying glasses. And we took to the office pool, and it was all like Butler, Ulysses, Adriana, this, you know. And I remember I rolled it up, and I'm going to see them tomorrow at camp. I'm going to go to Campland, and on their in their closet is it rolled up, and I hid it. So I'm going to go there on Sunday for the finale. And that just aired. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to see that nobody said Chris. It was all like wrong. 20 people. Nobody said Chris. Everybody lost. Yeah.
That's kind of awesome. We all had suspicions, but I think Brian might have last week.
I predicted it the first week, and then last week I predicted Cam was the winner and Chris was the killer. But I mean, I don't proclaim to have any.
It's changed.
Yeah, I mean, I've been jumping around.
Yeah, Cam was an easy one, I think, as of late. Like, it's Cam.
Yeah.
But when I watched with my family in Buffalo, it was Cam Melina, Cam Lindsay, Cam Lindsay. Not really too many Cam Chris's coming out of people's mouths.
Right.
But then when the Butler thing came, when Butler was the killer, they all turned around and go, if I invested 9 weeks in this show and it's the Butler, I'm never watching this show ever again. They were so mad.
That's exactly how I felt. I'm like, no way. How am I supposed to do an after show? Anthony's coming. It's the Butler.
The Butler did it.
Like, I was like, this show's going to be terrible, the after show.
I'm sitting there watching this show and smoking a cigar in the background, and my Aunt Maria turns around and says, I'll kill you.
That's really
well, and I think the other great thing is that you do get 2 kind of victory things, Chris and Cam. You know, it's like, it's not just a one winner. It's like 2 things you've been trying to figure out the whole time.
The funny thing is nobody really cares about the winner in this show. It's the funny thing. It's like, you know, who's killer? Who's killer? Like, who the winner is? Nobody cares what the winner is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So another question: what's the thing with the animals? There was lots of animals in this. Are you just like a
He's
zoo?
a creative guy. I mean,
I love it.
Look at CSI.
I know that for season 2, I definitely want to have a big python swallow a body.
You told us that.
That's for sure. Yeah, give that one away. It's funny, when we first did Mountain Lion in the room, and I had, you know, my 2 writing partners, you know, Trey Calloway and Liz Devine, both worked on CSI and CSI New York. So, like, okay, we want to do a mountain lion where this mountain lion mauls somebody, and there's this big game room with like a moose and a deer and a lion with plaques, almost like, you know, trading places with the plaques. Yeah. And then when they hear the growl and they run back into the game room, like, it's empty. There's just a hole where it says mountain lion. Like, that was the original thought process.
Right.
And then we kind of got into this whole thing where there's, you know, and Liz had the idea to, you know, step on the mat and the trap door opens and it comes out. But the funny thing about being a creator and a writer is, it seems so absurd in the room, and it seems so absurd when you write it, but when they actually film it, it's like, wow, it actually does work.
Right.
It's kind of cool. It's this bleeping thing on the bottom of the mat, the thing comes up, and that mountain lion's name is Kona. It was a teenage boy mountain lion. And that mountain lion was so sweet, but so ferocious, and, you know, they jump off of limbs and trees and eat you. So we had to train this thing for 3 weeks with a trainer who was stressed out the entire time to jump on it and eat this kind of fake plastic steak. Train it, you know, beep, beep. So the thing is, this thing came on, and we had to train it to, like, maul the dummy Don.
Right.
You know, rah, 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 rah. And I'm a big violence guy and a big pyro guy, so everything on fire is like, more fire, more fire, more violence, more violence. And this, I guess the actor, Lion, got tired and literally just went, "Arr!" and just chewed on Don's fake head and would not let go. Would not let go for anything. The trainer does this thing, stop, stop, this and that, you know, whatever magic things they do. Nope, head came off. Done deal, shoots over, but the actor got tired and just mauled Dunne to death. And I'm like, hope you shot it. You know, so we got that great ending shot where the cat went "Rawr!" at the end of episode 4 as our out. It's like, yeah. And then for the episode Bombadita, episode 5 in the woods, it was so great because we're shooting and they go, oh, by the way, that horse was the same horse they use in Django that does flips. I'm like, what? What? You're telling me this now? I go, we're stopping production for an hour to dig a hole to make sure the stunt guy falls on the dirt because we're flipping the horse.
Yeah.
If the horse does a flip, the horse is going to flip. They got so mad at me. It's like, we're wasting time. We're going to lose light. I'm like, I don't care what we lose. This is our out of our teaser. The horse flipping upside down with the belly in the camera. And like just like clockwork, it was like, Ulysses, Ulysses. Right in the camera, like, yeah.
That's awesome.
You know, but this is a reality show. They don't do that in reality shows.
Right.
You know, it's more like, that's why it's reality fiction. So it's very cool cinematic stuff.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, y'all did so many great animal things, and then Ronnie's like, they had a trained monkey.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? But, I mean, y'all could have scripted that.
Well, I mean, it just felt weird that it was lion and horses. It was supposed to be like, now that you've done a more aggressive animal, let's do a lighter-hearted animal with the horses. That was kind of the whatever.
Right.
But Ronnie, for some reason, was so in cloud 9 in a different galaxy. He was like, I think a trained monkey, and we're sitting there in the control room going, what? A trained monkey could have went up and then did what? And it was so funny. He thought maybe on a Hail Mary at dinner, well, it's feasible. A trained monkey could have done that, right? You know. And they're like, you're nuts. And Cam's like, get out of here.
I think we definitely need a trained monkey next season.
Desperation. Big time.
Yeah.
So.
And one last thing for me. Do you do the titles of the episodes?
Yeah, I think we all do them in the room.
Yeah,
you know.
because I love the titles. I loved Frost Nixon.
Well, it was funny because, you know, when you work in TV long enough, there's those magical seasons, those things that happen. You know, Sherry, she did cheerlead in her zapping, and she's a cheerleader. Right. Dante's Inferno, right? Don was Lion about being a football coach.
But you didn't plan that.
No, we didn't plan this.
Yeah.
You know, Adriana, who's a TV anchor during the Boston bombings. It was just, there was a lot of weird things kind of happening. Ronnie said he sold frozen food when he's actually a bounty hunter, and he ended up blowing up with the liquid nitrogen and being frozen. It was like all these weird things lined up in the show, and I'm like, this is so crazy.
Creepy.
That is a little creepy.
You know, even Gino was a bar trivia host, and he was sitting there at a luau doing his thing and dancing and hosting. It was so crazy.
That is crazy.
Is that nuts? Yeah.
Yeah. Any last questions from you, Virginia?
No, not really. I'm good. Sorry. I feel like I've been getting them out.
Yeah.
I know.
I knew if I come on here, I could answer all your questions.
I know. I loved it. I mean, I think for me, too, the biggest thing, all the twists. I mean, but if they weren't on purpose, like, I can't really ask about them if they just happened.
I know. Well, that's the thing. I feel like I'm just like, what else is there?
No, I mean, we did a really good job in the script phase to make sure that we set up situations that were very twisty and turny, and it happened organically. You know,
Right.
if you watch the show really, really closely, you won't see a lot of hand holding or a lot of overly producing, which I'm super proud of. I think we did a really good job. Some people thought it was maybe just too good to be true, that it was overly produced, but it really wasn't. It was just the situations were just pristine, and the show just worked.
Yeah.
And I think that's even how, like, when you're finding out who the winner, it's like, is this really happening? Is this? Are they really telling you right now that Chris is the killer? Like, I was confused almost.
Yeah,
I was like, how is this happening?
I mean, people still, you know, my family still thinks that Melina would be popping out at the end going, oh, it's really me. Like there's some last twist of a twist, right?
I was waiting for a last twist.
Right.
I really, really was waiting for a last twist. And did Cam really just get to keep that cash in the suitcase, or is that just for?
That's fake cash.
Okay.
Fake cash. But yeah, he actually won the money fair and square. You know, he played the game the best. And I was pulling for Lindsay at the end there, I have to admit. You know, she was really sweet. But she was super sick in the finale. If you watch her running around, she was just had the flu. She was so exhausted.
What kind of engineer is she? I was curious.
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I've always wondered.
I think she used to work at a police precinct and she has like a badge or something, but now she's an engineer. I don't know. But
Right. And she definitely wasn't drunk last week's episode.
No.
What was her craziness for?
She just gets a little goofy. you know. I mean, around the bar, she's like, you know, yeah, I never know. And I'm like, why am I being so weird? Funky. But she did a nice job. But the funny part was when I had to, this is another tidbit, when I had to have the cast read the entire phone call, when I cut it all together, the phone call thing.
Right.
Like, I had to make her laugh because I wanted her to laugh at the end. So she was like, do something to make me laugh. And I had to get up and like do my like butt slap, you know, like kind of like disco butt slap. And she'd be like, and it sounded all creepy, but I had to make her laugh to get that laugh shot.
That's fun.
So too much information for her.
Never enough information.
Yeah.
We love all the information.
Thank you.
Well, guys, thanks for watching all season. It was a great season. We hope that you join us for season 2. We're just going to put it out there.
Fingers
that there will
crossed.
be.
Send your tweets in.
How long do you think it will be until we find out?
I think ABC wants to get all the numbers, get all the DVR numbers coming in, seeing how, you know, the uptick of the finale, and just kind of focus on the positives and go into our bigger boss and say, hey, you have the same team. You have Zuiker and Abrego, and Tony Sacco did a great job shooting this thing. And come back, maybe do celebrities or do it all over again, and just come back as a solid summer show. It should come back, I think.
Which celebrities would you like to have?
I would
if you had your choice?
love, like, you know, just like really good celebrities, like, you know, Charles Barkley, Geraldo Rivera, Billy Peterson.
Geraldo!
Imagine Billy Peterson would be awesome.
yeah.
The Real Grissom. Gangster. That'd be pretty great. You know, Susan Lucci, just people from Dancing of the Stars type, you know.
Gary Sinise?
Great. Yeah. He's David Caruso. Imagine that.
Right.
Come back.
With the
I'm
sunglasses.
back to solve nothing. No. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, but I think you know, more relevant celebrities that are sort of in the now, not of yesteryear, would be great.
Right. Okay, well, that, I think, wraps up, unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, just very happy to be here on your great loyal following, and AFTERBUZZ.TV, Anthony Zuiker signing out, and I'll see you next season for Whodunnit Part 2, Ambassadors. Take care.
Sweet, and I am Stef Z. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at IAMSTEFZ.
And you can find me at Virginia Reyna.
And you'll find me at some point.
You're not
later.
gonna find Ryan,
You're
apparently.
not gonna find me.
At Zuiker.
And yes, we can find Anthony at Zuiker, which is Zuiker. Thank you guys so much for your loyalty. Please watch the finale, and give us your comments too, because we'll enjoy them for next season. Okay, thanks a lot.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.